Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. This is Jamal Arif. I'm part of the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure team. As continuation to our FastConnect series of videos, in this video, I'm going to talk about the private and public peering within FastConnect, our safe harbor statement. So when you create a FastConnect connection, you can either create a private peering connection or a public peering connection. So what is a private peering connection? So private peering is basically extending your on-premises network to the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure VCN. If there is a use case around lift and shift, and if you want to extend your current on-premise data center into the cloud, you can set up a private peering connection. It allows you to connect to your resources within your virtual cloud network in OCI. The communication across the FastConnect dedicated connection is via private IP addresses because you are connecting to your private IPs within the OCI VCN. Normally, you will see that if you are either having a hybrid architecture where some of your workloads are living inside the OCI and some of your workloads are on premise, you'll go for a private peering connection. Also, in lift and shift scenarios, this is very common as well. The other use case is a public peering connection. So in case if you want to access some of the public resources within Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, like object storage, the object storage service has public endpoints, and if you want to connect to them, you connect to them over the internet. But if there is a use case that you want to connect to the public endpoints within OCI using this FastConnect connection, you can use the public peering FastConnect. In case of public peering, the communication would be on the public IP addresses using that dedicated connection, and you will get to the OCI public resources using over this dedicated connection. So for instance, again, the basic example is if you have a fast connect public peering and you are accessing the object storage, the communication would be on on that dedicated connection. If you have a public load balancer running inside the OCI, and if you're using the public peering connection, you would also access that public endpoint of that load balancer using on that dedicated connection of FastConnect. All right, so in case of FastConnect private peering connection, you can see that whatever model that you are using, whether it's a customer direct to Oracle model or if it's through a partner or an exchange provider, any of the models you can create a private peering connection. So in the private peering connection, there is a dynamic routing gateway that is involved, and you will have a communication between your customer premises equipment, so your own on-premise data center, with your virtual resources in your virtual cloud network via the dynamic routing gateway. And the connection, the traffic would be going to your private resources in your virtual cloud network, and the communication across this dedicated FastConnect connection would be on private IPv4 addresses. So let's take a look at the BGP advertisement in case of private peering. So you have a virtual cloud network with a 10.1/16 network. It has three subnets within that CIDR. On the customer side, you have the 192.168 network and then a 172.16/16 network as well. As a first step, the BGP advertises the three subnets that it is connected to the CPE provider on the customer side. The customer side equipment then advertises the three subnets that it is connected to, and as a result, the dynamic routing gateway's routing table gets updated. And right now, the dynamic routing gateway routing table has all the routes in as part of its routing table, so it can get to the directly attached network, and it also can get to the private IP addresses in your customer data center, and as it has them in its routing table as well. So now let's take a look at the public peering connection. We already talked about what a public peering connection looks like. And now we can see that from a architecture perspective, what are the key components which are utilized in the public peering connection? So in case of a public peering connection, when you create a public peering connection, there is no dynamic routing gateway involved because you're not connecting to the private resources in your virtual cloud network. In fact, you are connecting to the public resources within OCI on that dedicated connectivity of FastConnect. So this is a very key aspect. And so, for instance, in the figure, you can see that your the red line actually indicates the private peering connection. So it goes to your virtual resources over the dynamic routing gateway. And in case of the public peering, there is no DRG involved. You can directly access the public endpoints of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure of that region over that dedicated connection. So when you choose public peering, you provide your organization's public IP prefixes you want to use with the virtual circuit. Each prefix must be /31 or can be less specific. Oracle will verify your organization's ownership of each prefix before we send out any traffic on that FastConnect connection, and that can take up to like 3 days business days. You will get the status of the verification in the console or the API, and we will begin the advertising like Oracle Cloud Infrastructure public IP addresses across that connection only after successfully verifying at least one of your public IP prefixes that you have provided. When you are configuring your edge router, make sure that you give higher preference to your fast connect over your internet service provider, because you will receive the Oracle's public IP addresses through the fast connect and also through your ISP. So it's important that you configure a higher preference of fast connect over your ISP. In this way, you can actually then receive the benefits of the fast connect public peering dedicated connection as well. We also prefer like more specific route when we are routing traffic from Oracle Cloud Infrastructure to other destinations. So this means that even when you have an internet gateway in as part of your virtual cloud network, we will reply to one of your verified public prefixes on the FastConnect public virtual circuit. You can also add or remove IP prefixes at any time by editing the virtual circuit. As we saw in the last session, where you have to when you are creating the public peering, you provide some public IP prefixes. So once even after creation, you can go back, edit those public prefixes at any time. All right, so in case of the BGP advertisements with public peering, let's take an example of a particular OCI region. So within this OCI region, for instance, you have the public surface endpoints with a /17. So there is a public endpoint prefix, and then there is another prefix where all the IP addresses are part of your VCN, virtual cloud network, the public endpoints. And then on the customer side, your public prefix is a 1.1.1 that's .0/24. So you own that public IP prefix. In this case, what we do is that we share the our public. We once your IP prefix are verified, we start sharing all of the public prefixes on OCI side. So again, it involves the OCI public services and also the customer's public VCN IPs. And then similarly, the customer CPE device shares the starts advertising its own IP prefix. So our gateway then gets that prefix as well. And then from there on moving forward, the communication happening on these public IPs is over this public peering connection. To quickly recap and do a quick comparison between the private and public peering connections. So if you're using a FastConnect private, the basic use case is that you are trying to get to the VCN private resources. And in case of FastConnect public, you are accessing the OCI public resources on that dedicated connection. Again, from a use case perspective, it's mostly when you are trying to get to the public endpoints like the object storage. If you use the regular over the internet traffic path, that's not kind of consistent. That doesn't give you a consistent latency or consistent bandwidth. So if you need a specific bandwidth requirement or a consistent latency for getting to OCI public resources within that region, you can use the public peering connection of FastConnect. Typical bandwidth is similar in both cases. So you can start with 1 gig or 10 gig, and you can have increments of 1 gig or 10 gig as well. We use the BGP protocol for both type of connections. In case of prefix advertisements for private peering, we would only advertise the virtual cloud network private subnets. In case of public, we will advertise the public VCN routes and also the public services routes. There is no prefix validation required for private because it's all private connection. In case of public, there is a prefix validation that whether the prefixes advertised or provided by the customer are owned by the customer or not. There is a 2000 prefix limit on FastConnect private, and on a public it's a 200 limit. In both cases it's a soft limit, so you can increase your resources by going through a request. The BGP ASN, the autonomous system number, is any ASN within private, but in case of public you have to choose your public, you have to provide your public ASN number. Thank you for joining. In the next video we are going to talk about FastConnect service models.